So a lot of times sellers fail at selling because they go after the wrong companies. They go after companies which don't really have the right pain points or problems that their product really solves for. And all they're doing is looking for people who remotely have the right job title and maybe company size, and then they try to shove their solution down their throat and it doesn't really work. If you really want to get good at booking meetings that eventually close and turn into revenue, you need to define who your best fit customers are. And so perhaps as a company, you guys have done this. If your leadership team hasn't done it, you should sit down with them and ask yourselves, who's actually a best fit customer who will easily buy our solution because they feel the pain, they see your product as the best alternative solution for them to solve that pain. They can adopt it quickly and they can see results fast. That's what you need to look for. And so the way to look for these kinds of people is to actually look at your existing customers. So what you want to do is look at your existing customers, look at the deals where the companies are not churning, they have a very low churn rate, relatively high ACV, and the sale is relatively quick. These are signs of companies which were really good fits, and you want to try to find and close more of those. And so you want to look at a couple of things, like who was the champion on those deals? What was their title, seniority? What was the makeup of the decision committee? Who was the final decision maker? All this kind of information you can kind of figure out from SalesNav or talking to the rep who closed the deal. The second thing you want to do is actually understand, what does the company look like? What was the internal project that the company had that was blocked without your solution? That's the only reason why anyone buys anything, is they have an internal project to do something and they can't do the thing because they don't have your solution. Understand, okay, the champion who was running this project, were they under an exec who had like an exec level priority and directed them to run this project? What were the characteristics of this company that would prioritize this kind of project? And so now you start to kind of reverse engineer what an ideal customer looks like for you. That's not just for graphic information. And so I'm going to show you an example of how you can think about capturing this information. And there are lots and lots of tools for you to do this. Apollo, ZoomInfo, Sales Navigator, Clay, etc. And so I'm going to show you very quickly how you can capture and build the right list for best fit companies. So the first thing I do is I define who are our best fit customers. So I sit down, put down a Google Doc of what constitutes a best fit customer. So what are the things that are true about them? They have a certain number of people in certain roles. They sell to certain industries. They have certain revenue. They have certain types of goals. These are the people at the company. They use certain types of tools that we are complementary to. There are things that are true for them. So in our case, we help companies with social selling. So here you would want to know that these companies already have LinkedIn working for them. We are based in the US, and most of our target market is too, so preferably based here. So these are examples of things you want to discover for yourself in terms of who buys from you. And so for certain types of companies, maybe you sell an API. You need to look for signs that a company needs to build a project that needs your API. So maybe they put this up in a job posting in terms of projects engineers are going to work on. Or maybe there's an alternative open source project and there are people liking or starring that on GitHub that you can look for. Lots and lots of ways you can try to scrape information, pull it together to determine if people have this project that you need to unblock. So this is how you define your best fit customers. The next thing you can do is you need to scrape data. Lots of ways you can scrape it. I'm not going to go into detail. First one, which is what most people do, is they go use a tool like Sales Navigator, put in a bunch of filters, and get you a list of people. This is okay, but none of this tells me that people have these roles, for example, and they're companies of certain size, but it does not tell me, and I can even figure out if they have 5 people, 5 AEs and SDRs, it doesn't tell me what tools they use. It doesn't tell me if they invest in LinkedIn. It doesn't tell me who they sell to. etc. And so SalesNav is not going to get you a complete list. It's going to get you a superset of what you actually need. 2,000 people just in New York. Too big of a list for me. And if you use tools like Apollo or ZoomInfo, it can probably further narrow this down. They just have more filters that you can use. So for example, we mentioned technologies. And so I can go and search if they use certain types of technologies, for example. And so this is one step better. And then if you really want to scrape data, there are tools like Clay, which can help you do this. So I'll show you how we use it. So we wanted to answer all these questions over here. That's what we do in Clay. So I download the list from Sales Navigator or Apollo. I upload that list to Clay, and then I filter it down further to our best fit customers. And the way we do that is we get Clay to go scrape data. For example, figure out if the CEO is posting on LinkedIn, in which case that's a good sign. They care about thought leadership. Figure out if they use intent data, because it means we're not the first person trying to sell them on the concept of targeted outbound and elevated GTM. We want to figure out who they sell to, because if they're selling to somebody who isn't online, there's no point in that. We figure out if they've recently hired anybody in RevOps, sales, or marketing, because that means that person might need to start new initiatives around pipeline that we can kind of help with. And we check for their sales headcount as well. So all of this stuff helps us score these accounts and figure out, okay, who are going to be our best fit customers. And so you really, really, really need to run this exercise before you do any sort of outbound. If you don't run this exercise, you don't know who you sell to and who is going to be a great fit, you're going to try to boil the ocean and you are going to fail.